Hi, Fabio. How are you doing?
Hi.
So, is it only you that will be joining, or do we wait for anyone else from your side? Hi, Fabio. How are you doing? Is anyone else joining, or do we start the session?
Moment, please.
I'm sorry.
Hello, Womer.
Hi, Rodrigo. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So, do we wait for someone else to join, or are we good to go?
Oh, no, we are good to go.
Fine. All right. I will be just sharing my screen right now.
Okay. I see that you are recording this call, right?
No, I am not recording it on my side. You can
Ah,
record it on your end if you want to.
okay, no problem.
Can you see my screen?
Positivo.
Yeah, yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So first up will be what we'll be doing is we'll be doing the basic configurations of the system,
Mm-hmm.
basically white labeling the panel. First up, we'll go to the administrations module, and in under administrations module, we will go to system settings and then general settings. In general settings, first up, we set the base currency of our system, the default currency in which all the reports will be shown. This is where we do it. For example, I'll set it to euro here. Next to it is the default invoice time zone. So all the invoices that will be generated from the system, the time zone on those will be the time zone that I set here. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I'll set it as the central Brazilian time zone, that is -4 UTC. I can set it here.
Okay.
After that, we set the quality check interval. So there is a quality check that we set. We can set it on our system on the incoming or outgoing traffic. And we can set the time interval for that after how much time that we want that check to happen. Let's say I set it here as 2 minutes. So after every 2 minutes, there will be a quality check on the traffic on the panel. And we can set the quality data interval as well here. After that, we come to the load distribution sample size. So when we do a load distribution on a particular supplier of traffic, what do we want the sample size to be? We can either set it as 100 or we can set it as 10. So basically what it means is that while doing load distribution, the system will take a batch of 100 messages. The system will, just a second. The system will take a batch of 100 messages and distribute the load as per that. Or if we keep it 10, the load will be distributed in a batch of 10 messages. After that, we come to the title, ASMC, that I have kept it here. You will be able to see it on the tab right here. After that, we come to the footer text. The footer text is visible at the bottom right here. After we're done with that, we go to the DLR delay. What the DLR delay means is we if we want our vendor to give the delivery to the customer after a delay of say 20 seconds, we can set it as here. We use this when we don't want instant deliveries for the customer. We want the delivery to be sent after an interval of few seconds. We can do it here. Maximum SMS readout count. So if a message fails and we want it to be rerouted, what is the maximum count that we want the message should be rerouted for? We can set it up to a maximum number of 10 retries. After that, we have Alarms SMTP server. We can create SMTP servers in our panel, and after integrating those SMTP servers, we can assign an SMTP server for alarms here. We will learn that in the coming sessions, how to integrate SMTP servers. For now, we just I'll just tell you that you can assign a server here for alarms and alarm to email. What we can do here is we can type in multiple emails to which we want the alarms to be sent. For example, there is Ahsan and there is Umar. We can separate it by commas.
Okay.
Invoice format. We have 5 invoice formats in our system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can set any of these, whichever one we like. To view it, we can just click preview and see it here. This will be the format of the invoice if we set it as 5. Similarly, we have other invoice formats as well.
Ô, Velasco, pergunta se esse invoice aí
After
for,
that,
é
force
possível
reset
editar
password
ele.
interval. Let's say it's kept
Desculpa.
as 100 right now.
Desculpa.
Let's say we want after 100 days, the system should force the user to change the password. We can set it as here. If you set it as 365 days, after every year, the password would need to be reset. Finance alarm email. So basically, whenever you will have an finance related alarm, what email would you want it to go to? You can set multiple emails here as well by separating those with commas. Auto import. So this is a feature wherein whenever a vendor or a supplier changes its rates, the system will automatically import those rates and apply those on the binds. This is an advanced feature and we will learn more about it when we go to the rate section. For now, we will set it to no. Send
Omer,
rate change email.
can I ask you a
Yeah,
question, please?
sure.
Can I create a custom invoice format, or we have to use we have to choose one of the 5 options that we have here in the invoice format?
I'm sorry, only these 5 formats can be used. You can't create a custom one.
Okay, so that there is no chance that I can create a custom invoice.
You can request for the feature if you want, or you can request for that.
Okay.
We will look into the feasibility of it and we will make the changes if it's feasible.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Sure thing. After that, we come to the send rate change email. Whenever you change rates on the panel, if you want your client to get the mail of that, you can set it as yes. If you set it as yes, the client will receive an email mentioning that the rate has been changed. Send previous rates with timestamps. Whenever you change the rates and you want what were the previous rates with the timestamp to be involved in that mail, they will receive the previous rates as well as the new rates that you changed. Enable client branding. If you set it as yes, your client will be able to upload their logo here, which will show here. They will be able to upload their logo from this portion in the branding section. For the admin panel, they can upload multiple logos as they want and they will appear here. For example, if we've kept demo system here, they will be able to upload their own file. Similarly for the enterprise panel and for the reseller panel. If it's set as no, they won't be able to show their logo here and only your logo will be visible here. Send zero invoice. If there is no amount or the customer does not have to pay you anything and the invoice is zero, whether you still want the invoice to be sent as zero, you can set it as yes, the invoice will be sent to the customer stating zero. If you don't want it, there will be no invoice sent to the customer if they don't owe you anything or if you don't have to pay them. Apply netting mode. So it is another feature. For example, we have a customer as a bilateral. I'll explain you what's a bilateral. If we have a client who is connected on our customer bind and we are connected on their vendor bind, okay? And we send traffic on their vendor bind of say 1000 euros. So basically we owe them 1000 euros because we have used their vendor bind for 1000 euros. What they can do is they will be eligible to send traffic of 1000 euros on our customer bind without paying us anything because we have already used their vendor bind for 1000 euros. Did you get my point? Or do I need
Yeah.
to explain it in a
No,
more
I
in more
think
detail?
I understood. It's like if we have traffic on both ways, and
Yes,
I don't have to charge my customer because I use something from him.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
I
That's
got
what I
it.
meant. Right, right. After that, enable default rate in RN. If you set a default rate for a customer, what we mean by a default rate? By a default rate, we mean when a customer sends traffic on our panel, regardless the message failed on the panel or whatever happened to the message, a default charge will be charged to the customer the moment the message hits our panel. Even if the message fails on our panel, the customer will be still charged because if we have set this default rate set. So if you want the default rate to be involved in the rate notification, you can set it as yes. If you don't want the customer to see that we have applied the default rate, you can set it as no. After that, we come to domains. So your admin panel URL, you can type it here. The company panel or the short link HTTP callback URL, you can type all these things here for reference. After that, we come to localization. Localization means what format do you want for your date, month, days, year. You can set it custom, whatever you like. After that, we have the date time format. You can similarly, as per your liking, change it to whatever you want out of the following options. Decimal separator can be set to dot or a comma. Similarly, we have the thousand separator. We can set it whatever we want. Service log settings and SMTP log settings. Logs are basically mainly used for troubleshooting and they are recommended to keep off by default. You can keep them off, or otherwise you want troubleshooting, you can keep it to all. Similarly, you can add your short link here. Short link. One important thing to be remembered after doing all the configurations is that is press the submit button. If you don't press the submit button, the changes won't be applied.
Okay.
So it's important to press the submit button. After that, we come to roles. Just a sec. Manage roles. What we do here is we right click here and add a role. For example, I'll type here Fabio. So a role by the name of Fabio is created. What I can do with this role is I can right click on that role and manage access module. What I see here is our modules of the panel. If I right click on the module and type disallow access, for example, I right clicked on the administration module and I clicked on disallow access and click yes. For this role called Fabio, this this role to whatever user I will apply this role, that user won't be able to access this administration module. Basically, his role won't be able to view the administration module on the panel. For example, I can see this administration module here. This Fabio role to whatever user I will assign it to won't be able to see this. Okay, so this will basically be restricted for the
Mm-hmm.
user.
Okay.
I'll show you in this meeting in a few minutes how it is applied. So basically, I disallowed the access to the administration here. After that, we can go to manage role access. This is more intricate. In the manage access module, we could only allow or disallow the role to access different modules. Here, we can go into much more detail and disallow or allow access to the user to the different functionalities of the panel. For example, I want this user, for example, I'll go to the company. I'll go to the company module and I want this user that this user should not be able to save the Excel sheets or export Excel sheets from the company. I can right click and disallow this. So this role won't be able to export the Excel sheets from the company. So this access module is basically a more detailed, it gives you more detailed control over a user. You can restrict any functionality in the function for a user that you want from this module. After that, we go to manage restrictions. This module is basically used for the MTVSS columns. If we right click and add a restriction, for example, Octor, I created a restriction and now I have to right click and manage this restriction. It basically shows me all the columns of the DSS dashboards, different widgets. For example, this traffic summary widget, it has different columns, right? So if I don't want the user to see the margin, margin percentage, revenue, I'll just uncheck these and right click and apply changes. So this restriction to whatever user I have applied this restriction won't be able to see the revenue or the margin percentage. Those things will be restricted for this user. My
And
internet is a little
o-
slow, I beg your
okay,
pardon.
where do you apply this restriction that you created
Yes,
now,
I
Homer?
will be, yeah, I will be coming to that. I will
Ah,
be
okay,
coming to
sorry.
that too. Yeah, no problem. We just created a role, as you remember, and we created a restriction, right? After that, your question was where do we apply it to a user,
Yeah.
right? For that, we go to manage users and we right click and add a user. We will add the user, for example, we'll say Umar and the last name as, and we will give his phone number and email address and give a time zone to the user. For example, we'll do it UTC 00. Did you remember that we just created a role?
Ah, okay, yeah, I
Here
see.
is that role, Fabio.
Mm-hmm.
We will apply it to Umar and whatever restrictions that I have put in that role for all the access modules or the different modules will be applied to this Umar.
Okay.
Okay. We can create a team. I haven't showed you that creation of team. I'll show you just now. There we created, but I'll show you when we created. Okay. So we can set this Umar to as a sales account manager, or we can set him as a procurement manager as well. Set his this user as active. We can even show restricted data to this Umar, and we can have no company restrictions. If we set it as yes, this Umar user will be able to see all the companies that are on this panel. Okay. And if we set
Okay.
no column restrictions to yes, this Umar will be able to see all the different columns of the MTBSs. But if we set no columns restrictions to no, we will have to add a restriction that we just created,
Okay.
this octo restriction,
Hmm.
that he won't be able to see the revenue or the margin. Okay, so this
Okay,
is
got it.
where we apply these. You got it? Right. So talking about the teams, we can create, remember to click submit after every change that you make. Okay. So after that, we come to teams. Just a second. Here. We can create a team, right click and add a team, and we can add a name for it. For example, Octor. I can right click and so this is a team is here a team is created. So whenever I go to manage users, whenever I create a user or edit a user, I can add this user to this team. Okay, that I just created.
Okay.
And after creating the team, I can assign this team a team leader. For example, Umar is the team leader. So let's say there are 10 people in this team. Umar will be able to see all their stats and companies of the 10 users that are in this team. Okay, because Umar is the team leader of this team. Okay, so basically he will be able to see the data of the other users, of the
Hmm.
other account managers or procurement managers or their companies. Umar will have access to their companies as well.
Okay.
Okay, just a second. Just give me a moment, please.
No problem.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm back. Okay. Now we have created a user. Okay.
Okay.
So whenever we create a user, the user will get the credentials of his email and password via an email. That email will be sent to him via an SMTP server. So integrating an SMTP server, we go to the manage SMTP settings, here SMTP servers, right click and add a server. We can set the server name as Octor, give it an email, for example, this email, and let's say we're using Google's SMTP server, right? Security, you can set it as auto and give it a port and the maximum number of emails allowed per second. Let's say 5. Username is usually kept the same as the email. This will be the email from which you want to send the credentials to the user. Okay. For
Okay.
example, this email Via this email, the credentials will go to the user, telling the user about, hi, the username, and this is your password, and this is your email address to log into the admin panel. I'll show you that in a moment.
Okay. Also, the alarms will be sent using this configuration, Omar.
Right. Just I'll show you that. Just a second, I'll show you.
Oh, no problem.
Alarms will be sent via
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
SMTP server
Mm-hmm.
that we have. This one is already created. You can integrate another server that you want, and to what email that you want the alarms to be sent is you can type it as here. We can set it as all.
Okay.
Alarms will be sent to this email. Okay, that we set here, and the server that will be used will be this one that we set here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
So we were creating the server. So basically, you got how to add a server here. After that, we will check the email templates. These are the different templates for every email that you want. For example, a new user is created. We'll click here. So this will be the template of the email. You can set it as, for example, the SMTP server that I want this email to go through is this one. I want Umar server. Okay, I'll type it here. What I want in the subject template is the username of the user that I created. This is a placeholder, and this will change with this will change automatically to whatever user I want to send this email to. I can change it here. These are the different global parameters. If I want anything among these things to be sent as the subject, I can click here. This will be copied. Just a second. This is not applying for some reason. I don't know. So basically, you will use these placeholders, and whatever is here will be sent to the user. For example, I created the Fabio user. The Fabio will receive Fabio as the subject of the email because the username was Fabio. And in the body, Fabio will receive welcome on board. We're happy to onboard you. His username, his name, and these will be the details that will be sent to him via email. This is the email template that we can edit to whatever we want. We can type whatever we want here. Please use these. This is basically customizable, so however you like it. Okay, so these are the different templates that we can edit. Just give me a moment, please. Okay. So now we'll get to the onboarding part of the customers. To add different connections like customer or vendor connection, we first need to create a company on the panel. To create a company, we simply go to the companies module and we right click and add a company. These are the details that we need to set for creating a company. For example, we will create a company with the name Octor. We will give it a short name. Let's say it's Octor. We need to give it a phone number. We need to give an email for it. And a support email. The company email and the support email will be single. The billing email, the rates email, and the low balance alert email can we can add multiple emails separated by commas.
Okay.
For example, I want this and I will put a comma here and we can add multiple emails for billing, rates, and low balance. But the support and the company email will only be a single email. After that, we need to assign it to a country in which it's registered. For this case, we have Brazil. The state is optional. We can skip that. We need to give it a company category. It's optional as well. The company status, whether it is created for test or it is production. If it's inactive or terminated, we'll set it as test. We need to set a currency for this company. The customer and vendors that will be in this company will have the same currency that we set for this company. Let's see, we'll go by euro here as well. Set a time zone for this company. Let's say Central Brazilian Standard Time. The credit limits and the balance will be added later. I'll show you that in the coming sessions. Set a balance alert amount. For example, I'll keep it as 100. So whenever the balance of this company will drop below this amount, there will be an alarm raised as low balance alert. Okay. The reference number is optional as well. We then create a business entity in the finance module that will check later for invoices. I will show you later.
Okay.
VAT number, if it's applicable, you can write it here. And then we need to type in a physical address. For example, we need to type basically an address where the company is physically present in. After that, we set the validity period as limited or unlimited. What it means is basically whatever balance that the company has, do we want it to be unlimited or for an unlimited period of time, or do we want it for a limited period of time? So basically, if we set it as unlimited, the company will be able to exhaust that balance for whatever time it wants. There won't be a time limit to exhaust that balance. Default email. After the creation of the company, whether we want the credentials to be sent to the company email or the support email, we can set it here. For this instance, let's say I want to send the credentials to the company email. The credentials will go to the company email that I have set here. Whether I want online payment to be disabled, I can set it as no. If I want to accept online payments from this company, I can set it as yes. If I want to block the company, I can set it as yes. Otherwise, no. Allow whitelisted cards. If I only want the company to be able to make payments through the cards that I have whitelisted on the panel, I can set it as yes, and the payments will only be accepted from those cards that are whitelisted on the panel. If I want payments from any cards, I can set it as no. Send daily reports. If I want daily reports, which we will learn in the next sessions, what those daily reports are. If I want these reports, I can set it as yes. If I don't want to see the daily reports for the company, I can set it as no. Netting. Allow netting. If I set it as yes, I explain netting in the general settings, if you remember. If I allow netting, the company will be eligible for the netting process. If I don't, this company won't be eligible for the netting process. Show HLR API. This is an advanced feature. We'll get onto this later. Enable vendor panel. If I set it as yes, an MIS panel will be created for this company wherein they will be able to see the stats of their vendor bind. If I don't want it, I can set it as no. And after all these details, I'll press submit. And our company is created. Okay. So basically what we did was we created a company called Octor. Now I want to add a customer bind to this company. What I will do is I'll go to the connections, customers, and after that, wholesale. Here, what I'll do is right click and add. Now I need to type in all the details of the customer that I want to add. For example, SMPP account name. I want this company, let's say, I want to keep the name as Adidas. Here I will assign it the company that I created, Octor. This is where I add this customer to my company. Select the route type as direct, high quality, SIM, whatever I want. Let's say direct. A username and a password will be generated automatically by the system. But if I want, I can change it here. The error is the logs are recommended to keep off. Otherwise, for troubleshooting purposes, I can set it to all. Message priority. I can set it as OTP. OTP messages will be given priority over the other two types of messages here. Connection status. Similarly, like the company, I can set it as test, production, inactive, or terminated. Let's set it as test. How many sessions I want this connection? How many sessions do I want to allow this connection to have with me? I can set it as 2, 1, whatever I want. Let's say 2. Speed limit. Speed limit is basically TPS. How many messages I want to allow this customer to submit on my panel in a second. I've set it 10. This customer will be able to send 10 messages per second to my panel. Enquire link is basically a health checkup. So every 45 seconds, an enquire link packet will be sent to the customer, checking the health of the connection or checking whether the connection is still active with the customer or not. After that, there is connection timeout. So basically, after this 45 seconds of the enquire link, if I don't get any response from the customer bind, a timer will start of let's say 500 seconds. It's customizable to whatever I want. A timer will start after 100 seconds, and after that 100 seconds, if the customer did not respond, the connection will be terminated. This response timeout is basically the timeout that starts after the enquire link, and after that the connection timeout starts. Default charging model. If I set it to submission, so whenever the customer sends traffic on the panel and we send the traffic to a supplier, the moment we get a submit SM response from the supplier, this customer will be charged for the traffic if we set it on submission. Otherwise, if we set it on delivery, when the traffic is sent to the supplier and the supplier returns the deliver SM, only then the customer will be charged. Did you
Okay.
understand this clearly?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or do I need to repeat myself?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. This is very important, but that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, this is important. That's why I want to
Oi?
be clear that you understood it clearly.
Eu tô vendo aqui.
Okay. Connection blocked. If I want this connection to be blocked, I can set it as yes, otherwise no. Allow open sender ID. If I set it as yes, the customer will be able to send traffic via any sender ID that the customer wants, and our system will accept the message. If I set it as no, the customer won't be able to send traffic via any sender ID. The customer will only be able to send traffic via those sender IDs that I have whitelisted. And where I can whitelist the sender IDs, I can right click on the connection and press manage sender IDs, and I can add the sender IDs that I want the customer to be sent traffic from, to be able to send traffic from. And the customer will only be able to send traffic from the sender IDs that I have whitelisted. If you want open sender ID, keep it at yes. If you want only whitelisted sender IDs for the customer to be able to send traffic, we can set it as no, and then manage the sender IDs by which the customer will be able to send traffic from. Enable delivery. If we want to send delivery DLR to the customer, we can set it as yes. If we don't want to send DLR to them, we can set it as no. Process incomplete SMS. Let's say a customer sent us a message of 5 parts, and we were only, and due to some reason, we were only able to receive 3 parts out of the 5. If we still want to go ahead and process that message, I can set it as yes, and the only the 3 parts will be processed. If I set the process incomplete messages as no, the message will be completely dropped. Disable IP blocking. If I set disable IP blocking to yes, the customer will be able to send traffic from any IP they want. But if we set it as no, only the whitelisted IPs that I will whitelist on the customer will be able to send traffic. Enable content whitelisting. If I want if I want only whitelisted content, if I want that only whitelisted content should be able to pass via this customer, I can set it to all for all destinations or specific for specific destinations. But if I want that the customer should be able to send any content if that he wants, I will set it as no, and the customer will be able to send any content that he wills. Auto generate rate plan. If we set it as yes, a rate plan a rate plan will be generated for the customer, and after that we will have to add the rate details for him. If I set it as no, I will have to create a rate plan manually for the customer. Just give me a second. Hello. I'm sorry. So where were we? Saurabh, we were
Oh,
no
yeah,
on
auto
the auto
generate.
generate rate plan, right? No, yeah, yeah. If I set it as yes, a rate plan layout will be formed automatically after I create this customer, and I only have to add the rates to that. If I set it as no, I will have to manually create a rate plan for this customer. Let's keep it yes for now. TAN NPI, type of number and numbering plan indicator, whether we want to use the customer's TAN NPI or the vendor's TAN NPI, it's totally up to you. Charge on submission. This is basically related to the default charging model. If we set the default charging model on submission, we can apply charge on submission. So basically what charge on submission means is if we set charge on submission as yes, the customer will be charged at the moment the traffic hits the panel. When the traffic hits the panel, the moment the traffic hits the panel, the customer will be charged. Regardless of the fact if the traffic fails or the panel or goes through, it doesn't matter. The customer will be charged the moment the traffic will hit the panel. If we set it as no, the default charging model will be applied. For submission or delivery, this depends the delivery or submission on the vendor. This depends the submission on the panel. So basically, if it is set as yes, the customer will be charged the moment the traffic hits our panel. If we don't want that, we want the customer to be charged on depending on the submission to the vendor or the delivery by the vendor, we can set the default charging model. But if we want to charge the customer the moment they send traffic on us, we can set the charge on submission to yes. Is that clear? Or do I need to repeat myself?
No, it's clear.
Sure. After that, enable DND scrub and promotional account. These are related. If we set this customer as a promotional account and we set enable DND scrub, the messages sent by these customers won't be able to reach the numbers that we have added in the DND database. If this is a promotional account, we'll set it as yes, and we enable DND scrub. The traffic sent by this customer won't reach the numbers that we have added in the DND database. So basically, the promotional messages won't go to the DND numbers.
So it would be like a blacklist numbers.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Those numbers won't be able to receive the promotional messages if
So
this account is set to yes on promotional and enable DND scrub is applied. Both of these need to be set as yes for that to happen.
Okay.
Okay. Allow secure connection only. If we want connection with this if we want the connection with this customer to be over SSL, we can set it as yes and then upload the certificate and the password. If we don't want that, we can set it as no. Delivery on submission. If we want a custom delivery status, regardless of the delivery that our vendor provides us, if we want, it's basically fake DLR. If we want a fake DLR to be given to our customers, we can set it here, and then we can customize the delivery status for the percentage of the messages. For example, I want delivered status to be sent to 80% of the messages,
Mm-hmm.
and I want en route status to be sent to 10% of the messages, and I want accepted status to be sent to 10% of the messages.
Yeah.
This DLR status will be sent to the customer regardless of the delivery that we get from the vendor. Did you get my point?
Yes.
Okay, great. For now, let's set it as no. After that, the effective rate for immediate rate change. So in the rate notification, if we want the rate change column to have the UTC time zone, or we want immediate to be written on it, we can set it as here. If we set it as UTC now, the rate notification will have the UTC time zone set in the time column. Or if we set it as immediate, there will be immediate written on it. Are an MNC digit. So basically, if we want 3-digit MNCs to be sent to the customer, I can set it as 3-digit. Or if I want to send 2-digit MNC, for example, an MNC is 002. If I set it as 2-digit, only 02 will be sent to the customer in the
Mhm.
rate notification. If I set it as 3-digit, 002 will be sent to the customer. Okay.
Okay.
So is change email subject? If I want a custom subject for the rate change email, I can type it as here. Or if I want the default subject, it will be set to default here. Override MODCS value. If I want to override the mobile originating DCS value, I can set it yes to whatever format I want. Or if I don't want it, if I want the default value, I can set it as no. Custom PDU DLR time zone. If you want the DLR in the if you want the time zone in the PDU to be custom, I can set it as yes. Otherwise, the default charge. So I explained default charge to you in the administration section. Basically, what default charge is a default. If I set a default charge for this customer and set it as 0.001 euro, this customer will be charged regardless the fact that their traffic failed on our system or the message didn't go through. This rate will be automatically applied regardless of the fact to what happened to the traffic or the messages. This rate will be applied to the customer regardless. If I don't want default charge, it's basically destination. We can set it as destination wise as well. If you want only specific destinations to have the default charge, I can set it here, or even all destinations. Or if I don't want to charge this customer on the basis of default charge, I can completely set it as no. Enable dynamic rate change. Let's say I have a customer and I have a vendor for that customer. If the supplier changes the rates and the rates were, and for example, the customer rate is 1 euro and the supplier rate goes higher than that, the supplier rate goes to 2 euros. So in this case, the supplier rate is more than the customer rate, which we don't want.
Mhm.
So if we enable dynamic rate change, what will happen is we will be able to a markup percentage will go up over the current customer rate, which we will be able to set in the rates in the coming sessions. I will show you how to enable the dynamic rate. If we want the customer rate to go dynamically up automatically when the rate goes more than the customer rate, we can set it yes in the dynamic rate change and the rates will automatically go up. Allow VPC with sender ID only. VPC is basically a virtual private carrier. If I set it as yes, this customer will only be able to send messages to the destination that is added in this VPC. When we create a VPC, we are able to add different prefixes or different destinations in the VPC. Just allow me a moment, please.
No
Yeah,
problem.
okay. So what I was explaining was virtual private cache. When we create a VPC in the system, we are able to add multiple MCC MNCs or multiple prefixes in the VPC. So if I set allow VPC with sender ID only, this customer will only be able to send messages to the destinations present in a VPC that I assigned to it. Did you get my point?
Yeah.
I'll explain it again if you want. Hello?
That's okay.
Is it clear?
Yep.
Sure. So we added all the important credentials that we had to, and I'll submit. So this customer, Adidas, is created that has been assigned to the company Octor. Did you get the customer creation part?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. After that, we will create a supplier, empty and two-way, vendors and empty and two-way, and then I'll right click and add a connection. So while creating a vendor bind, we will assign it connection type. For this, I will set it as SMTP. This connection will be over SMTP. And I will assign this to a company, let's say Octor. If I do it, I won't be able to send messages from the customer that is present in Octor. I'll give you an example. For example, we have a company Octor, right? And I created a customer for that Octor, which was Adidas. And if I create this vendor in the same company, if I assign the same company to this vendor, that Adidas customer won't be able to pass traffic through this supplier because they are in the same company. The error that will pop up will be bilateral found. Okay. So
Okay.
basically, if we create a customer in a company, that customer won't be able to send traffic via a supplier which is present in the same company. The supplier has to be in a different company. Okay. So let for now, we won't send message, we won't add this vendor in Octor. We will add this into a different company. Let's say United. We will give a connection name to this supplier. Let's say supplier test. We will have to type the system ID and password for it. The system type is optional. All these details like source, address done, and NPI, these are recommended to keep default.
Okay.
So submit speed. The supplier will give you the submit speed, and it basically is TPS. Whether is let's say it's set 50 air, I will be able to send a traffic at the rate of 50 SMS or 50 messages per second on this vendor bind. So after that, we have Enquire link. It's basically again the health checkup. After every 45 seconds, an Enquire link packet will be sent to the vendor to check the health of the connection. After that, after 45 seconds, if the vendor did not respond from their side, a response timeout of 120 seconds will start. And if even after these 120 seconds, the vendor did not respond, a connection timeout of let's say 300 seconds will start. And after these 300 seconds, the connection will be gracefully terminated. Delay time. So this is the time in seconds that the vendor will take to send us a DLR. For example, I submitted a message on a vendor and it delivered the message. The vendor will wait for 5 seconds before sending the DLR to the panel. Log level is recommended to keep off, but if you want to do troubleshooting, you can set it as all. After that, we set the send queue limit. So basically what send queue limit is is that it's basically a window size for the vendor. It is the maximum amount of messages that will be kept in queue for the vendor. It is customizable. I can keep it to whatever value I want. Let's say 500. Connection retry delay and connection retry count is basically if the connection was terminated, the system will try to reconnect to the vendor after 10 seconds of the termination of the connection. It's totally customizable if I want. If I want the system to, let's say, retry the connection with the vendor after 5 seconds of termination, I can set it as 5. And connection retry count. After the connection is terminated, the system will try 10 times to connect to that vendor after the connection has been terminated over TCP. And if I want the connection to be I'm sorry, bind retry delay. So basically what it does is it tries to recover the connection on the SMPP level. So after 10 seconds of the SMPP connection termination, the system will try to reconnect to the vendor over SMPP after 10 seconds. And for 10 times, it will try to do that. Route type. I can set the route type for this supplier to multiple routes like direct, high quality, SIM, wholesale, to whatever I want, how many route types I want, casino, whatever route types I want for this vendor, I can set it here. Sender ID prefix. For example, if if I want a prefix to be added to a sender when the message is terminated from this vendor, I can set it as here. For example, in India, we have a prefix 91 before the phone number. So I will add 91 and before every phone number, 91 will be added. Address turn and NPI is recommended to keep as default. Testing service identifier is basically, let's say I'll keep my name here, and whenever I do a route test on the system, this identifier will show at the end of every route test that I do from this vendor. It's basically to identify whether the message is being terminated from this vendor. Connection mode. If I want it to act as a transceiver, receiver, transmitter, and receiver, I can set it here. Let's say transceiver. I'll set it as transceiver here. Sessions allowed as transceiver. Whatever sessions I want with this customer, I can set it as here. This TLV tag and TLV values are basically the optional parameters. If the vendor gives it to me, I will write it here. Default charging model. As in the customer, we have the default charging model in the vendor as well. If we set it on submission, the customer will be charged when the message is submitted on the vendor, and if it's kept on delivery, the customer will be charged after the vendor sends the delivery to it. Connection recovery. If I want the system to try and recover the connection after it has been terminated, I can set it as yes. If I don't want the system to automatically reconnect to the vendor after the connection has been terminated, I can set it as no. If I want the connection with the vendor active, I can set it as yes, otherwise no. Check balance. So what it does is, before sending the traffic to the vendor, the system will check if we have balance on this customer or no, if we set it as yes. And if only if we have balance on this customer, the messages will go through. Otherwise, the messages will fail on this vendor. If we set it as no, the system won't check before terminating the traffic on this vendor. Open sender ID for all destinations. It's the same as in the customer bind. ESME ACK. So if we want the ACK packet from this vendor or no, if we set it as yes, we'll get an acknowledgement. If we don't, we won't. DLR optional parameters. Some vendors, what they do is they don't send the DLR packet, they send the delivery in optional parameters. If you want to map that in our system, we can set it as yes and set the delivery message ID tag and state tag here. If the vendor does not do it, we will set it as no. Again, if you want a secure connection with the vendor, I can set it as yes. Otherwise, if I set it as yes, I will have to upload the SSL certificate here. If I don't want the secure connection, I can set it as no. Blending vendor. What a blending vendor basically is it's also called a cutting vendor. What a blending vendor does is it basically gives a fake DLR to the customer. If I have set a blending, if I've set this vendor as a blending vendor, what it will do is it will send a custom DLR status to the client. It won't be actually terminating the message, but what it will do is it will send a custom DLR DLR packet to the client, which we will set in the general settings. If we want this to be an actual vendor and terminate messages actually, we will set it as no. Excluded and CRV1. If we want this vendor to be excluded in the least cost routing, we can set it as yes. But if we want this vendor to be included in the least cost routing, I can set it as yes. Enable content whitelisting. If I only want whitelisted content to be able to pass through this vendor, I can set it as yes for all destinations or for specific destinations. Otherwise, I can set it as no. If I set it as no, any content will be able to pass through this vendor. Send validity period as null. We can set it as yes or no. And auto generate rate plan, it's the same as for the customer bind. If we set it as yes, a rate plan layout will be created for this vendor, to which we will only have to add rates to. Otherwise, if we kept as no, we will have to manually create a rate plan for this vendor. And after adding all these details, I'll click on submit and this vendor is created. So basically what we learned today was some basic configurations of the administration module, the basic configuration of the system to get going. And we also learned how to create a company, and we also learned how to create a wholesale customer bind and a vendor bind. So I think this is enough for today. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
I think at that moment it's okay. We surely will
Okay.
have some doubts in the future, but I think we need
Yes, you will.
more
And I'll
tests in the platform to really know what we need for the next steps.
sure. Once you use the platform for some time, you will have more questions, and I'll be here to answer those.
Perfect.
Yes. Anything else from anyone?
I don't think. I think that's enough for today. We're gonna
Sure.
do some
We
tests and we see
sure.
another date and take some things more
Sure.
specifically.
Yes, correct. Let's do that. Okay, I think it's enough for today from my side. It was great meeting you guys.
Nice to meet you, Amr.
Thank- Nice to
Thanks
meet you
for
as
all.
well. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have a nice day, you too. Goodbye.
Só isso? Não, na cal tá dizendo 1h30. Bom, vou perturbar a vida deles aqui no grupo. Só a questão aqui do. Osasco. Já. Acabou.